The twin suns of Kepler 442b painted the crystalline forest in shades of purple and gold as Captain Maya Rodriguez led her team through the alien landscape. Each step made the ground beneath their boots sing a strange melody as tiny crystals. Shattered and reformed, Maya had been on dozens of alien worlds, but this one felt different. The air itself seemed to watch them. Private Lisa Chen walked beside her captain and kept checking her scanner every few seconds. The device showed energy, readings that made no sense. They were looking for signs of the war that deep space monitors had detected. Instead, they found beauty that hurt to look at. Trees made of living crystal stretched toward the orange sky, and their branches chimed in, harmonies that no human composer could imagine. Corporal Amy Johnson stopped suddenly and raised her fist. The team froze. Through the shifting rainbow light of the crystal forest, something moved. It was too graceful to be natural, and too solid to be their imagination. Maya touched her earpiece and whispered into the comm. She told her ship they had movement. The Terran vessel Horizon waited in orbit ready to extract them if needed, but Maya hoped it would not come to that. The movement came, again, this time closer. Through the prismatic trees a figure emerged that made Maya forget her training for just a moment. It was a woman, but not human. She stood tall with silver hair that seemed to flow like water in slow motion. Her ears came to delicate points and her skin had a faint luminescence, but it was her eyes that captured Maya. They were violet like the deepest nebulas and held knowledge older than Earth itself. Beside the elf woman stood a creature from mythology, a dragon, not the massive beast of legend, but something more elegant. It was the size of a large horse with scales that seemed to exist in multiple dimensions at once. One moment they were deep blue, then silver, then colors that human eyes could not name. The dragon lowered its serpentine neck and studied the humans with intelligence that was definitely not animal. Maya slowly removed her hand from her weapon. The elf woman noticed and tilted her head slightly. She raised one slender hand with the palm facing out. A gesture of peace, perhaps, or warning. The translator in Maya's ear remained silent. Whatever language this being might speak was beyond their technology. The moment stretched between them, human and elf regarding each other across a gap of species and stars. Then the world exploded. The ground 300 meters to their left erupted in flames and crystal shards. The beautiful chiming of the trees became a shriek of destruction. Maya threw herself down and pulled Lisa with her through the chaos. She saw the elf woman move with impossible speed. She leaped onto the dragon's back in one fluid motion. The dragon spread wings that Maya had not noticed before. They were not physical wings, but something made of bent space and twisted light. Another explosion rocked the forest. This time closer, Maya scrambled to her feet and shouted orders. Her team needed cover. Through the smoke and falling crystal, she saw ships descending. They were not human designs. Black, angular, things that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. Plasma bolts rained down and turned the singing forest into a nightmare of fire. Maya looked back to where the elf woman had been. She was gone. No, there standing on a ridge above them with her dragon beside her. The elf woman's violet eyes met Maya's across the battlefield. In that gaze, Maya saw something that shocked her. Recognition. This elf knew what humans were. Then the woman raised both hands and the air around her shimmered. A barrier of pure energy formed between Maya's team and the attacking ships. Plasma bolts struck the barrier and dissipated harmlessly. The elf woman was protecting them. But why Amy Johnson pulled Maya toward a cluster of larger crystal trees that offered better cover. The team huddled together as the battle raged above them. The attacking ships focused their fire on the ridge where the elf woman stood. She moved like a dancer, and her dragon breathed something that was not fire, but made the ship's shields flicker and fail. Maya tried to make sense of what she was seeing. They had come to investigate a war, but this was not a war between equals. This was a slaughter. The elf woman and her dragon fought with desperate fury against overwhelming odds. More ships appeared. The sky turned dark with their numbers. The elf woman's barriers began to crack under the assault. Maya made a decision that would change everything. She activated her comm and called the Horizon. She gave coordinates and requested immediate fire support. Her executive officer, Commander Kelly Brown, questioned the order. They had no idea who was friend or foe. Maya watched the elf woman stumble as a blast got through her defenses. The dragon roared, and the sound was nothing like the movies. It was the cry of something ancient and proud being brought low. Maya repeated her order. Target the black ships. The Horizon's weapons were not as advanced as whatever the elf woman wielded, but human kinetic bombardment. Rounds traveling at fractional light speed needed no mystical power. They simply destroyed. The first salvo caught the attacking ships by surprise. 3 of them became expanding clouds of debris. The others scattered and returned fire toward orbit. This gave the elf woman time to recover. She looked up at the sky, then back at Maya, across the battlefield. Their eyes met again. The elf woman touched her hand to her chest, then extended it toward Maya. A salute. A thank you. A recognition of one warrior to another. Then she and her dragon vanished, not ran or flew, simply ceased to be where they were. The attacking ships seemed to realize their prey had escaped. They turned their full attention to the humans. Maya ordered her team to move. They ran through the burning crystal forest as death rained from above. The Horizon reported taking heavy fire. More enemy ships were emerging from hyperspace. This was no mere skirmish. This was an invasion. Maya and her team reached the extraction point just as their shuttle screamed in at treetop level. They dove aboard as plasma bolts turned the ground where they had stood into molten glass. As the shuttle climbed toward space, Maya looked back at the dying forest. Somewhere out there, an elf woman and her dragon were running from an enemy that commanded fleets, and humanity had just chosen a side in a war they did not understand. The shuttle shook as it pushed through the atmosphere. Maya closed her eyes and saw again those violet eyes. The elf woman had known humans had recognized them. But from where and why had she protected them? The questions would have to wait. First, they had to survive. The Horizon was already pulling back from the planet when they docked. Captain Rodriguez rushed to the bridge. The tactical display showed dozens of enemy ships pouring into the system. Whatever they had stumbled into was bigger than a single world. This was bigger than anything humanity had faced as the Horizon jumped to hyperspace. Maya wondered if she would ever see the elf woman again. She wondered if Earth was ready for what was coming. She wondered if that small gesture of protection in the crystal forest would matter when the real war began. The stars blurred and shifted. As they fled behind them, Kepler 442b burned. And somewhere in the vast darkness, an elf woman rode a dragon made of impossibilities. The war had found humanity whether they were ready or not. 3 days had passed since the crystal forest burned. Captain Maya Rodriguez stood at the edge of a deep ravine on Kepler 442b and wondered if she had lost her mind. Her ship, the Horizon, waited in high orbit hidden behind the planet's largest moon. Had brought only Lisa Chen and Amy Johnson with her. A larger team would attract attention. The elf woman had sent them a message, not through technology, but through dreams. Each member of Maya's crew had seen the same vision. Crystal caves beneath the surface, a hand beckoning them to follow, coordinates burning like silver fire in their minds. Now they were here. The ravine looked natural, but Maya's scanner showed something else. Energy patterns that bent reality a door, hidden in plain sight. Lisa touched the rock wall and gasped. Her hand passed through what looked like solid stone. It was a hologram more advanced than anything humans had created. Maya took a breath and stepped through. The world changed. They stood in a tunnel carved from living crystal. The walls pulsed with soft light that responded to their movement. Each step forward made the lights dance. It was beautiful and alien and terrifying. They walked for what felt like hours, but Maya's chronometer showed only minutes. Space worked differently. Here the tunnel branched and twisted, but somehow Maya knew which way to go. The dream had left more than coordinates. It had left a path. Amy kept her weapon ready but lowered. These caves felt ancient and peaceful. Whatever war raged above had not touched this place. Not yet. The tunnel opened into a vast chamber that stole their breath. It was a city. Not built, but grown. Crystal structures rose like organic architecture, bridges of light-connected platforms that floated without support. And everywhere there were people. No, not people. Beings. Dozens of species Maya had never imagined. A creature with 6 arms and skin like starlight tended to what might be children. They had wings of gossamer and eyes full of innocence. Near a fountain that flowed upward, a group of beings that looked like living equations played a game with rules that bent space. And through it all walked the elf woman. She moved between the refugees with grace and purpose. Her silver hair caught the crystal light and threw rainbows. When she saw Maya, her violet eyes showed no surprise. She had been waiting. The elf woman approached and the chamber grew quiet. Every being turned to look at the humans. Fear rippled through the crowd. Mothers pulled children close. Warriors reached for weapons. Maya understood humans had a reputation. The elf woman raised her hand and spoke in that musical language. Her voice calmed the crowd, but the fear did not fully leave their eyes. She gestured for Maya to follow. They walked deeper into the chamber. Lisa and Amy stayed close to their captain. The refugees parted before them like water. Some watched with curiosity, most with suspicion, all with caution. The elf woman led them to a smaller chamber. Here the crystal walls showed images, stars being devoured, worlds turning to ash ships like the ones that had attacked them, spreading across the galaxy like a plague. Maya did not need translation to understand. This was the enemy. The devourers, the refugees whispered about. The elf woman touched the wall, and the images changed. Now it showed species fleeing, ships of every design running from the darkness. And this place, this sanctuary, a last hope for those who had lost everything. Maya saw children of a dozen species playing together. She saw beings who should be enemies, by all logic sharing food. She saw hope in the face of extinction. Then she saw him, a small figure hiding behind a crystal column, watching the humans with eyes too large for his face. His skin was pale blue like winter sky. He looked maybe 7 years old, though who knew how his species aged. The elf woman noticed Maya's gaze and smiled. It was the first time Maya had seen her smile. She called out softly. The boy peeked further around the column. The elf woman spoke again and gestured. Slowly, so slowly, the boy emerged. He was thin and delicate. His clothes were patched from different fabrics. Refugee clothes, survivor clothes. He took one step toward them, then another. Maya knelt down to seem less threatening. She had nieces back on Earth. She knew how to be gentle. The boy studied her with those enormous eyes. Then something amazing happened. He smiled. It was tentative and fragile, but real. For a moment, Maya felt hope. Then the smile shattered. The boy's face crumbled. Tears that glowed faintly blue rolled down his cheeks. He pressed his small hands together as if praying. When he spoke, his voice was broken with fear. The translator in Maya's ear crackled to life for the first time. The words hit her like physical blows. "Please don't be afraid of me. Please don't be afraid of me." He repeated it over and over. This child was begging her not to fear him. Maya felt her heart break. What had humanity done to make a child so terrified? The elf woman moved forward and gathered the boy in her arms. She spoke softly as he sobbed. Her violet eyes met Maya's over his head. In them was a question and a challenge. This is what you are to them. This is what humanity means in the dark between stars. Are you what they fear? Or can you be something more? Maya stood slowly. She removed her helmet and set it aside. She took off her weapon and placed it on the ground. Lisa started to protest, but Maya silenced her with a gesture. Maya sat cross-legged on the crystal floor. She made herself small and harmless. Then she waited. The boy peeked at her through his tears. Maya smiled and held out her empty hands, universal gestures. No threat here, just a woman far from home. The boy whispered something to the elf woman. She nodded and set him down. He took one tiny step toward Maya, then another. When he was close enough, Maya spoke. Her voice was gentle, like she used with her sister's children. The translator worked both ways. "Hello, little one. My name is Maya. What's your name? The boy's eyes widened. He had not expected kindness. He looked back at the elf woman who nodded encouragement. My name is Cairo. He whispered. It's nice to meet you, Kiro. Maya said. Thank you for being brave enough to talk to me. The boy's tears slowed. Confusion replaced some of the fear. You're not angry? He asked. Why would I be angry? Maya replied. Kiro looked at his small blue hands. Because I'm different. Because I'm alien. Because humans hurt people who are different. Maya felt anger rise in her chest. Not at the boy, but at whoever had taught him this. She pushed it down. Anger would not help here. I think being different is wonderful, she said. Earth has many different kinds of people and we're stronger for it. Kiro studied her face, looking for lies, finding none. The elf woman watched this exchange with ancient eyes. Around them, the refugee colony held its breath. This moment mattered. It would ripple outward like waves in water. Maya held out one hand, palm up, an offer. Not a demand. Kiro stared at her hand for a long moment. Then with courage that humbled Maya, he reached out his small blue hand, touched her human one. His skin was cool and smooth, different but not wrong, just another way to be alive in the universe. Thank you, Kiro. Maya whispered. Thank you for not being afraid of me. The boy's eyes went wide. Then for the first time since seeing the humans, he truly smiled. It was like sunrise after endless night. The elf woman spoke. The translator caught some of it. Something about bridges and hope and children showing the way. Around them, the refugees began to relax. If a child could be brave, then perhaps they could too. Maya looked up at the elf woman. There was so much to learn, so much to understand. But in this moment, a human and a small alien boy held hands, and that was enough. That was a beginning. Maya sat with Kiro in a quiet chamber while the elf woman prepared something she called memory wine. The boy had not let go of her hand since their first touch, his small fingers wrapped around hers like she was an anchor in a storm. Lisa and Amy stood guard at the entrance. They had relaxed, but old habits died hard. The chamber walls showed soft images of distant worlds, places these refugees had called home before the darkness came. The elf woman returned, carrying a crystal bowl filled with liquid silver. She sat across from Maya with movements that seemed to flow like water. Her violet eyes studied the human captain. My name is Lyrelai, she said. The translator worked better now, as if Kiro's touch had opened some barrier. I am what your stories would call an elf, though we were old when your son was young. Maya nodded. She had questions, but sensed this was Lyrelai's time to speak. Kiro needs you to understand, Lyrelai continued. His people are called luminants. They share memory across generations. What one knows, all know. What one fears, all fear. The boy pressed closer to Maya. His blue skin seemed to glow faintly in the crystal light. Lyrelai dipped her fingers in the silver liquid. The walls around them came alive. Images flowed like water. Maya saw ships. In space? Human ships, old designs from the early colony days. A luminant vessel approached them. Its hull was pearl white and shaped like a flower. No weapons. Just curious explorers reaching out. The human ships fired. No warning. No attempt at communication. Just fear turned into violence. The luminant ship broke apart, its crew dying in the cold dark. But worse than death was what happened next. The memory spread. Every luminant felt their kin die. Every child born after carried that fear. Humans became monsters in their collective mind. Maya felt sick. She looked down at Kiro. His tears had returned, but he still held her hand. I'm sorry, she whispered. So sorry. Kiro looked up at her. But you're not like them, he said. You're different. Lyrelai smiled sadly. That is why Kiro is special. He fights his people's memory. He chooses to see what is not. What was? Tell her why you came to me, child. Kiro straightened, a bit of pride entering his voice. I wanted to be brave. My mother says, fear makes us small. I didn't want to be small forever. Maya squeezed his hand gently. You are the bravest person I've met. The boy's glow increased as if happiness had a color. Lyrelai waved her hand. The images changed. Now Maya saw Earth, but Earth as it was millions of years ago, young and wild, We watched Lyrelai, said my people have always watched. We are the firstborn, the universe's first children. We learned to shepherd younger species. Earth was special, so much potential, so much fire, but also so much capacity for growth. Maya's mind reeled ancient aliens watching. Over Earth it sounded like bad science fiction, but here she was holding an alien child's hand while an elf spoke of deep time. You protected us, Maya said. Sometimes Lyrelai replied. When we could, when you would not notice. But we failed too. We did not prepare you for what was coming, the Devourers. The images shifted to horror ships that were not quite machines, not quite alive. They fell on worlds like locusts. They consumed everything, technology, biology, the spark of consciousness itself. Nothing remained but empty. Shell's dead world spinning in the void. We tried to warn species, Lyrelai said. Most did not listen until too late. Then we had to make a choice, stand and die with honor, or break our laws and save who we could. I chose to save Maya. Saw the dragon then, not as it appeared but as it truly was. Whisper was a ship, a living ship that could fold space and time, technology so advanced it looked like magic. But even magic had limits. I gathered survivors. Lyrelai continued. Species the Devourers had not yet found, or those who ran fast enough. This place is our ark, but we cannot run forever. Cairo spoke up, his voice small but determined. That's why I wanted to meet you. Humans fight. Everyone knows humans fight. But maybe you could fight for us. Not against us. Maya looked at this child, this boy who carried his entire species' terror of humanity, yet chose hope instead. What do you need? She asked. Lyrelai leaned forward. The Devourers adapt. They learn. They counter. But humans don't fight like other species. You're chaotic, unpredictable. You find ways to win that shouldn't exist. We need that chaos, that refuse to die spirit. But more than that, Cairo interrupted, we need friends. Everyone here is scared, not just of the Devourers, of each other, of tomorrow, of being alone. But if humans could be friends, maybe we could all be friends. Maya felt the weight of the moment. This wasn't just about military alliance, it was about redemption, about humanity choosing to be better than its worst moments. She thought of Earth, of the leaders who would debate and argue, of the fearmongers who would see only threat. But she also thought of her nieces, of the children who would grow up in whatever universe they built today. I can't speak for all humans, Maya said, but I can speak for myself, for my crew, for anyone willing to listen. Yes, we'll help. We'll be your friends. Kiro's face lit up like a small sun. He turned to Lyrelai. She said yes. She said yes. Did you hear? Lyrelai smiled, a real smile that made her seem younger. I heard little light. The elf woman stood. There is much to do. The Devourers will find this place eventually. We need to prepare. But first, she gestured to the bowl of memory wine. Maya understood. This wasn't just about showing her the past. It was trust. Lyrelai was offering to share memory, to let Maya feel what they felt, know what they knew. Maya reached for the bowl. Lisa stepped forward, an alarm, Captain, that could be dangerous. Maya looked at her officer. Everything about this is dangerous, but sometimes we have to take the leap. She drank. The universe exploded behind her eyes, saw the birth of stars, the firstborn waking to consciousness. She felt Lyrelai's joy at watching Earth's first life, her sorrow as civilizations rose and fell. She experienced Cairo's fear, not just knowing it, but feeling it in her bones. The terror of being small and different in a universe that killed different. But she also felt his hope, that burning spark that refused to die. When the vision ended, Maya was crying. She understood now. Really understood. The refugees didn't just need humanity's weapons. They needed proof that the universe could still surprise them with kindness, that strangers could become family. Kiro hugged her, his small arms barely reaching around her waist. Thank you, he whispered, for seeing us. Lyrelai placed a hand on Maya's shoulder. Will your people listen? Will they understand? Maya stood, her legs shaky but her resolve firm. Some will enough will, and those who don't. She smiled. Well, humans are good at changing minds. Sometimes it just takes a child's courage to show us the way. The crystal chamber seemed brighter. Hope was fragile, but it was there, growing like a flower in the cracks of fear. Tomorrow they would plan. They would prepare for war. But today a human woman drank memory wine with an ancient elf. Today a small alien boy chose trust. Over terror today the galaxy became a little less lonely. And in the depths of space, the devourers continued their relentless march, unaware that their prey had just become something new, something united, something with humanity's chaos and alien wisdom. Combined, the war was coming, but so was hope. The devourers came at dawn. Not that dawn meant much in space, but Maya's ship clock showed 0600 when the first alarm screamed. She was on the bridge of the USS Liberty. Admiral Grace Washington had brought the big guns. 17 human warships hung. In formation around Kepler 442b had taken 2 weeks to convince Earth's leaders. 2 weeks of arguing and pleading while the galaxy burned. But Kiro's message had done what military reports could not. The image of a small blue child begging humans not to fear him had gone viral. Earth's social networks exploded with demands to help. Sometimes Maya thought the politicians feared their own people more than aliens. Now they waited. Lyra Lee stood beside Maya on the bridge. The elf woman's presence made some crew nervous, but most were curious. Kiro sat in a special chair they had installed just for him. His small hands gripped the armrests. He was scared, but trying to be brave. The tactical display lit up like a Christmas tree from Hell Devourer ships, poured out of hyperspace dozens, then hundreds. They blocked out the star's admiral. Washington's voice came through the comm. All ships, prepare for combat, Marine squads to boarding positions. Let's show them how humans fight. Maya turned to Lyra Lee. Are you ready? The elf woman's violet eyes were sad but determined. Whisper is ready. The other dragons too. We have been running too long. Today, we stand. She moved to the observation deck. Through the transparent aluminum, Maya watched her transform. Not transform, exactly. More like stop pretending to be only what she appeared. Lyra Lee's form blazed with inner light. She became something between flesh and energy, beautiful and terrible. Then Whisper appeared. The dragon had been hiding in folded space. Now he revealed his true glory. What had seemed horse-sized expanded, and expanded, and expanded. Crystalline dragon the size of a battleship floated beside the Liberty scales, shifted through dimensions. Maya's eyes couldn't track. From the refugee fleet, more dragons. Emerged 7 in total. Ancient beings who had hidden among the survivors' living ships that defied physics. They had been waiting for this moment. The devourers attacked. Their weapons were wrong somehow. Not plasma or laser, but something that ate reality. Where their beams touched ship shields didn't just fail. They ceased to exist. Like erasers wiping away creation. The human fleet responded with everything they had. Kinetic rounds traveling at fraction light speed, nuclear missiles that bloomed like deadly. Flowers, plasma cannons that turned space into a light show. The devourers adapted. Their ship shifted and changed. What killed one became useless against the next. They were learning, but humans had tricks too. Captain Susan Park of the destroyer Manhattan had been a street racer in her youth. She took her ship through maneuvers that made physics cry, sliding between devourer beams like threading needles. Her crew launched boarding pods at point-blank range, Marines in power armor carrying weapons that should not exist. Humans had learned some things from Lyra Lee's people weapons that fired possibility instead of projectiles, armor that existed in several dimensions at once. The boarding teams hit the devourer ships like angry wasps. Inside they found horrors. The ships were alive, or had been creatures melded with technology in ways that hurt to understand. The Marines did what humans do best. They improvised. Sergeant Kelly Martinez found the ship's core, a beating heart of stolen consciousness. She didn't try to understand it. She just shoved a quantum grenade into it and ran. One devourer ship died screaming. The dragons danced through the battle. Whisper breathed not fire, but pure mathematics. Reality equations that unwrote, devourer existence. Another dragon sang, and her song made enemy ships forget how to be. They flickered and vanished like bad dreams. But there were so many, for each devourer destroyed 3 more appeared. The human formation began to buckle. The Liberty took a hit that carved through 3. Deck's atmosphere howled out into space before emergency fields snapped on. Maya held onto her command chair as the shipbuck damage reports flooded in. They were losing. Kiro made a sound, a small whimper of fear. Maya looked at him. His huge eyes were fixed on the tactical display, watching hope die in real time. Then something changed in his expression. Fear became determination. He was 7 years old and he had had enough. "Captain Rodriguez," he said, "I need to talk to them." To everyone, Maya didn't question. Nodded to communications, "Open all channels," she ordered. "Every frequency we have," the comms officer worked frantically. "Broadcast ready, Captain." Kiro stood up in his special chair. He looked so small, so fragile, but his voice when he spoke carried across the stars. "My name is Kiro. I am 7 cycles old. I am luminant. We remember everything. We cannot forget. Every luminant knows how humans killed us. My grandmother felt her sister die when your ships fired. That pain lives in me, in all of us. I should hate you. I should fear you. I did fear you." The battle raged around them, but something was happening. Ships, both human and refugee, were listening. Even some devourer vessels slowed their assault, confused by this small voice in the void. But then I met Captain Maya. She took off her weapon. She sat on the floor. She held my hand. She said being different was wonderful. She thanked me for being brave, me, a small scared child. She thanked me. Kiro's glow increased as he spoke, his emotion blazing through his skin. I chose to trust it. Was hard. Every memory in me screamed danger. But I chose, and she chose too. She drank the memory wine. She felt our fear, our pain, and she still said yes. Yes to helping. Yes to being friends. On the tactical display, the human ships were rallying. Marines fought. Harder, pilots flew sharper. Hope was contagious. "If you can hear me," Kiro continued. "If you're scared, if you're angry, if you think the universe has no kindness left, look. Look at what we're doing. Humans and dragons fighting together. Species who were enemies, now standing as one. My fear was real, but it doesn't have to be forever. We can choose. We can be more than our worst memories. We can be friends." The refugee fleet erupted. Ships that had been holding back surged forward. A vessel full of beings that looked like living crystals began to sing. Their harmony disrupted devourer communications. Fighters crewed by 6 armed pilots dove into battle with suicidal courage. They had heard a child choose hope. They could do no less. Maya watched the tide turn. Not because of superior firepower, not because of tactical genius, but because a 7-year-old boy shared his truth. The devourers seemed confused. They had formulas for fear, algorithms for conquest, but they had no response to this, to unity born from a child's courage. Whisper and Lyra led the dragons in a final assault. They wove between the human ships like thread through cloth, dragon fire and human steel, working as one. The Manchester's crew figured out devourer shield frequencies. They broadcast the data to everyone suddenly. Enemy defenses were paper. Admiral Washington seized the moment. "All ships concentrate, fire drive them back. Make them remember this day." The combined fleet hit the devourers like a tsunami. Humans fought with controlled chaos. Refugees fought with desperate hope. Dragons fought with ancient fury. And through it all, Cairo's message played on repeat. We can choose. We can choose. We can choose. The devourers broke. For the first time in recorded history, they ran. Their remaining ships twisted space and fled. They left, behind wreckage and questions. But they left. The Allied fleet held position for hours, waiting for a trap, for reinforcements, for the other shoe to drop. Nothing came. They had won, not the war, but this battle. This moment, Kiro collapsed into his chair, the glow fading from his skin. He was just a tired little boy again. Maya scooped him up in her arms. He weighed almost nothing. "You did it," she whispered. "You saved us all." He looked up at her with those two large eyes. "We did it," he corrected. Together, around them crews, cheered human and alien voices mixing in celebration. They had proven something today. That unity was possible. That fear could be conquered. That sometimes the smallest voice carried the furthest. The war was far from over. The devourers would return. There would be losses and sorrow and pain. But not today. Today a dragon danced with starships. Today enemies became allies. Today a child reminded the galaxy how to hope, and in the depths of space. The devourers nursed their wounds and wondered, how do you fight an enemy that turns fear into friendship? How do you devour hope that multiplies when shared? They had no answer, but humanity and its new allies would make sure they learned. 6 months had passed since the Battle of Kepler. 442 Ambassador Maya Rodriguez stood in the grand chamber of the Galactic Council beside Lyra Ley. The ancient hall on Neutral Station Harmony Point had seen thousands of species meet over millions of years. Today it would witness something new. Maya wore her dress uniform, but had added touches suggested by Kiroi's small badge, showing a human hand holding a luminant hand. The symbol of the Terran Refugee Compact. It had become the most recognized image in known space. Lyra Ley stood serene in robes that seemed woven from starlight. Her violet eyes surveyed the assembled representatives. Some still looked at humans with suspicion. Old fears died hard, but more looked with curiosity and hope. The council speaker called for silence. A being of pure energy that communicated through color patterns, Maya's translator worked overtime to keep up today. We formalize what battle has forged. The speaker announced the alliance between Earth and the refugee fleets, between humanity and those who flee the darkness. Let all who would stand against the devourers be heard. Maya stepped forward. 6 months ago, we knew nothing of your struggles. Humanity was young and isolated. We thought the universe cold and empty. We were wrong. She paused and let her words settle. A child taught us we were wrong. A boy named Cairo who chose courage over fear, who saw not what humans had been, but what we could become. His choice lit a spark that became a fire. Today that fire burns bright. Murmurs rippled through the chamber. Everyone knew Kiro's story by now, but hearing it here made it official, made it history. Maya continued. Earth offers its full military support to all refugee species. Our shipyards are already building vessels that blend our technologies. Our academies train mixed crews. Our colonies welcome those seeking new homes. But more than weapons, we offer friendship. More than shelter, we offer family. The universe is vast and full of terrors, but no one stands alone, not anymore. Lyra Ley stepped forward. Next, her voice carried the weight of ages. The firstborn have watched from shadows too long. We thought guidance meant distance. We thought wisdom meant isolation. We were wrong. Her admission sent shockwaves through the assembly. The firstborn admitting error was unprecedented. From this day we stand with you, not above you. The dragons of the firstborn will fly beside your ships. Our knowledge is yours. Our strength is yours. Together we are more than the sum of our parts. The formal voting began. Species after species voiced their agreement, some enthusiastic, some cautious, all understanding that unity was survival. When the vote concluded, it was unanimous. The Terran Refugee Compact was law, but Maya knew the real work happened far from council chambers. Thought of Earth, of the changes already taking root. In New Geneva, children played in schoolyards that would have been impossible a year ago. Human kids chased luminant friends whose skin glowed when they laughed. 6-armed Threnody youngsters dominated. The jungle gym's crystal beings taught their classmates to sing harmony that made flowers bloom. Cairo had started it all. He visited Earth often now. Split his time between his people's new colony and human schools. Everywhere he went, children followed. Not because he was famous, but because he was kind. He taught human kids luminant light games. He learned baseball and shared it with refugee youngsters. He was building the future one friendship at a time. The military integration was harder, but progressing. Admiral Washington now commanded a mixed fleet, human chaos and alien precision finding balance. The dragons had proven invaluable, not just as weapons, but as teachers. They showed humanity technologies that bent reality. In return, humans taught them about improvisation, about finding victory in impossible odds, about never giving up. The Devourers had not been idle. 3 more systems had fallen to their hunger, but each battle they found stiffer resistance. The Alliance learned and adapted. What worked was shared instantly across. All fleets' human stubbornness infected their allies. Alien wisdom tempered human recklessness. After the ceremony, Maya found herself in the station's observation lounge. Earth hung in the distance, blue and white and perfect, but now she saw it differently. Alone but part of something vast, Lyrelay joined her. The elf woman moved so quietly Maya never heard her approach. "Your species surprises me still," Lyrelay said. "Most grow more rigid with power. You grow more open." Maya smiled. "We had a good teacher. A 7-year-old boy who refused to let fear win." Speaking of Kiro, a small blue figure burst into the lounge. He ran full speed and crashed into Maya's legs. His glow bright with excitement. "Maya, I learned something new. Want to see?" He held up his hands. Light danced between his palms, but not just luminant light mixed in, were sparks of very human determination, golden threads of will that luminance had never produced before. "We're learning from each other," he said proudly. "Not just ships and weapons, but how to be. How to think new ways for everyone." Maya knelt and hugged him. "That's wonderful. Kiro, you're building bridges with light itself." He hugged back, small arms full of trust. No fear remained between them, only family chosen across species lines. Later, Maya stood before the memorial wall. Every name of those lost in the Alliance's battles, human and alien side by side in death as in life. She touched one name, Private Marcus Webb. He had died saving a Threnody family during an evacuation. His last words had been worth it, because it was every life saved, every child who played without fear, every former enemy who became a friend, all worth it. The war continued, would continue for years. Probably. The Devourers were vast and hungry, but they faced something new. Now not scattered prey, running in terror, but united people standing together. And at the heart of it all, a simple truth. A small alien boy had smiled, then cried, "Please, don't be afraid of me." And humanity had answered, "We're not. We're family." The stars held infinite dangers, but also infinite possibilities. Maya looked up at those stars. Somewhere out there, dragons flew with human starships. Somewhere, refugee children learned human games. Somewhere, former enemies shared meals and stories. Somewhere, Devourers learned to fear hope. Because hope spread. Hope multiplied. Hope refused to die. The galaxy had been cold and dark, full of fear and isolation. But one child's choice had changed everything. One moment of courage had lit a fire, and that fire would burn until every shadow fled, until every child could smile without fear, until the universe itself learned what Cairo knew. That being different was wonderful, that strangers could be family, that love was stronger than fear, always. The future stretched before them, uncertain and dangerous. But no, longer alone, never again alone. Maya smiled and walked back toward her new life, ambassador not just of Earth, but of hope itself. Behind her, the stars sang with possibility.